Watch this.
An Idaho lawmaker helping lead the state's budgeting committee says there are red flags in the governor's proposed financial plan, who he says will be the hardest hit by that plan. There's something fishy going on.
When you throw a new one into the mix, you don't know what could change.
Fish and Game says that someone put an illegal species in an eastern Idaho reservoir, putting other wildlife at risk. This week, the newly appointed co-chair of Idaho's Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, that is known as JFAC, the budgeting committee, co-chair raised questions about Governor Little's proposed budget, which we heard about during the State of the State. And that's what it is, a proposed budget. It's up to the Idaho lawmakers to take the governor's recommendations, but ultimately pass a budget bill for him to sign into law. And they may have very different ideas. As highlighted in the first budget meeting of the year, Representative Josh Tanner asked major questions about the stability and nature of the governor's proposal. He detailed those to me this afternoon.
Well, it didn't balance. That's the tough thing. They can say all day long, and anybody else can say it balances, but when you're using I use the term one-time gimmicks. So if you're looking at their ongoing balance versus their one-time balance, their ongoing balance was actually a negative. And that's one basic math 101. You don't want to end up with an ongoing balance as a negative when you're budgeting. So they did leave us with a positive ending balance, but it was 32 million is what they left us. Now, when you fast forward, that's for 2026. When you fast forward into 2027, it gets even a little bit worse. They're leaving us $103 million negative balance in our ongoing funds. Again, using more of those one-time gimmicks to try to placate to hoping that we're going to get it. One of the placating gimmicks was interest. They took interest from all these different accounts and they said, we're going to use this interest as our backstop and funnel that back to the general fund. But the tough part is what they left our ending balance. So in 2026, they left our ending balance 32. Get down to 2027, they're leaving our ending balance at $25 million. That to me was beyond a red flag.
Is it also concerning that it wasn't just numbers, X's and O's, it was also policy decisions that needed to be made to move things around, like the statutory requirements on some of that interest?
Beyond the statutory interest one, there was multiple other things in there. There was the IDLA, there's ILA. Both those are policy decisions. So far, I have not seen policies that have come out from the governor's office on those, where normally when they actually have something that they're adding into the budget, they're ready to go. They have that policy bill already drafted. They have the sponsors already kind of picked out. They've already worked some of the committee stuff, and they're ready to move forward. Now, again, this is just getting thrown to legislator lap. They're like, well, we needed to get this balance. We need this number up a little bit, so we threw these in here. Do with it what you will. And to me, I think that was a hard slap back at the legislature and was not very appreciated by myself or by the members of my committee. And it does take policy work. It's going to have to go down to germane committees to go through these and decide on what they actually want to do. If they decide not to, then it's going to be looking at where other areas we can actually look at to make that up.
Medicaid expansion, you kind of just touched on it there. The governor says, I don't want to touch Medicaid expansion. Do you think that's realistic with the rising costs of healthcare, but specifically also Medicaid in that expansion population?
I've made my stance pretty clear on that one. I think it's important to protect the children and the disabled. I think those two ones really are areas where we should be focused on. And when all of a sudden I'm seeing massive hits to protect able-bodied working adults, it's frustrating for me. I think the governor gave in his State of the State as well really low unemployment rates. That's because people are still hiring. So they should be able to find a job. These are not people with disabilities. These are not people with other things. These are people that we really do need to get back out in the workplace. And I think that program has hindered Idaho in certain ways and not helped it. And I think especially when you are looking at the two other areas, when you're looking at the children and you're looking at the disabled, to me, I think those are the areas we need to make sure we're focused on and make sure we keep whole. And if there's other areas that are not, I think those are the areas we should look at and not go slash across the board because we've got one massively growing population of people. And those budget discussions will continue into next week.
And sticking at that big building in downtown Boise, a big week here in Idaho. The governor's State of the State on Monday, followed with mixed reaction from the legislature's budgeting committee. Then yesterday, applications for the Parental Tax Credit, that officially opened. So a major topic that's been a conversation for families and lawmakers since it was signed into law last session. Questions around the program. How will it work? And this is, of course, the program where eligible families get up to $5,000 per student for things like private school tuition, homeschooling, educational materials, tutoring, so families outside the public school system. And so far, from the Tax Commission's official data, about 3,300 families have applied for the program. And we're going to get into some of your viewer comments from this week. And we will start up first with Bob. He says, I see the governor wants a 3% reduction and everything. How about the $50 million they put aside to help people with their kids go to private schools? I believe in Idaho law, you can't take private money and put it into private schools. So there is a lawsuit pending over this tax credit program, and we have reported on this extensively, especially back in the fall with the Idaho Education Association, along with other public school advocates suing the state. And oral arguments are scheduled for next Friday, January 23rd, in the Idaho Supreme Court. Since the litigation is pending, the state is allowed to move forward with the tax credits. So there are some questions about the spending on this program. And again, this comes down to a matter of priorities. People are also saying, well, you can't spend money on private school tuition. This is technically a tax credit, so you can see the workaround there. But a good question. To another comment now, focusing on the same tax credit program. Let's take a look at one from B&B. They say, why is there no oversight in the school choice program? Brad Little signed it knowing there was no oversight. Okay, so the oversight does come from the Idaho State Tax Commission, and there is going to be some debate on if they are the perfect group to be doing this. We heard that at length from some lawmakers last year. The Tax Commission will be taking a look at the numbers and kind of making sure that the program is run efficiently. They even hired extra staff to do this. But about an hour ago, these questions, they continued in a legislative letter. Minority leadership, the leaders of the House and the Senate from the Democrats, they asked the Idaho State Tax Commission to pause advanced payments, those tax credits, related to the program until sufficient, they say, there is more oversight in place. So while the Idaho State Tax Commission administers the program, it is up to the private or charter schools to accept those students. So there are questions here about what should be able to be used, how much should be able to be used. Will there be enough receipts for the taxpayers and general government to take an eye at this program and, in their view, use this responsibly? That remains to be seen. All right, sticking in politics, when the state of Idaho flipped the switch on a new statewide financial system in July 2023, it became the only state in the union to successfully launch a cloud-based platform of this scale. The Luma system replaced 30-year-old technology with an integrated platform that, for the state of Idaho, does a lot of work. Everything from payroll to procurement, everything in between, and this impacts thousands of state employees and billions in your taxpayer dollars. But like any massive technology upgrade, it hasn't been without challenges and criticism and questions. And we have followed all of those, the big systems and the big questions from lawmakers and members of the public. But there is the other side of the topic too, as those challenges are worked through. Benefits and realities of upgrading the legacy system into the future. I spoke in depth with the state leader in charge of it. That's the controller, Brandon Wolf. I know that we have covered, at length, and you've been transparent and talked about at length some of the challenges, some of the questions that have come up. There seems to be an expectation from some folks that for Luma, it would be as simple as, okay, we flipped the switch and now it's ready to go. Do you think it was maybe an unfair expectation that, okay, this massive thing, which to be frank, I don't know if everyone understood how big of an undertaking this was, but there was the expectation that this should be perfect as a click of a button. Do you think that maybe that expectation played into some of the misunderstanding of rolling this out?
I definitely do. I think from our standpoint, lessons learned is that change management. How can we have done a better job of setting those expectations and those understandings? I think that's a key point of knowing that, yes, you flip the switch, it's going to run perfect all the way. It's the same with your phone, or you have a new maybe system here at KTVB. When you have something new, you may have little bugs to work out, but I think it's those expectations. Our biggest lesson learned probably is how we could have done a much better job at the controller's office of that change management and setting those right expectations of, okay, those that we talk with in the industry, they say it normally takes 2 to 3 years to get all through the bugs or to work out the main kinks and get flowing and have that right productivity. And that's on us, and that's on me. I'm the leader of that and setting those right expectations. But we're going and we're in the right path now. And I think that's my lesson really just on the previous question, is sharing those with other states of saying, hey, look, that change management, you can put whatever technology in any company, any system, but it's that change management, it's the people. And being able to help them understand their role, their expectations is the huge success or failure point.
Controller Wolf was my guest this week on Viewpoint. You can watch our full conversation. We even talk about Y2K, the year 2000 here in Idaho. Good conversation, 7 a.m. on Sunday. Or excuse me, 9 a.m. on 7 on Sunday. How's that? All right, what's the 411 around the 208? Well, you can head to the Boise Basque Block to celebrate a staple dish. Plus, an Idaho Community College unveiled a new facility today. But first, crews are making progress on the I-84 at Highway 16 interchange project. Idaho Transportation Department is implementing closures over the weekend so crews can install bridge girders over the interstate. It'll begin at 10 o'clock tonight and go through Monday morning at 5 a.m. Make sure to go to ktvb.com for the latest on traffic updates and detours. College of Southern Idaho opened its Transportation Technology Center. Here's a great video from today's ribbon cutting. College says that the center will house its heavy equipment ag technology and diesel technology programs. High school students working to receive dual college credit will also get to learn in this brand new facility. Maybe you're feeling hungry this Friday afternoon. It's International Croqueta Day and the Basque Market is celebrating. The market says visitors can celebrate by picking up $1 take and bake croquetas. That is a great deal here on a Friday night. Ooh, that sounds delicious. You know what's so not Idaho? Illegally stocking a fish that could completely disrupt other species and hurt entire ecosystems. And earlier this month, an angler caught a yellow perch in eastern Idaho. That's a fish. But it wasn't the catch of the day because it shouldn't have been there. Now there could be future repercussions for the wildlife in the water. Hunter Funk caught up with Idaho Fish and Game.
He caught a species that has not been stocked by Fish and Game intentionally in that reservoir. It was a yellow perch, which was alarming. It's the first documented instance of perch being found in Island Park Reservoir.
Do we normally have that fish anywhere in Idaho?
Yeah, yellow perch is a prized game fish. It's found in a number of places, like Cascade Lake is a popular place from the Treasure Valley to go fish for perch, producing some state records in recent years. Island Park Reservoir is not a place where we intended to have or want to have yellow perch.
And why is that?
Well, primarily because of its location. So Island Park Reservoir is up by West Yellowstone, the Idaho-Montana border. It's in the headwaters of the Henry's Fork drainage. And this is an area in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem that is very famous for its trout fishing. And Island Park Reservoir is smack dab in the middle of that. We manage that for rainbow trout fishery as well as kokanee. And yellow perch could stand to threaten that fishery and other nearby fisheries.
So they impact the ecosystem of those fish then?
Yeah, so ecosystems are very complex, lots of interacting factors, species, and other variables. And when you throw a new one into the mix, you don't know what could change. And whenever Fish and Game goes through the process of introducing a new species somewhere, we do a very deliberate and careful evaluation if that's the appropriate thing to do. We assume it was an illegal stocking event. It's illegal to put fish in places without a permit from Fish and Game. And because of that, we don't know what the ramifications will be to Island Park Reservoir or the adjacent systems. If you are coming to Island Park Reservoir, now that we do have this population established, one thing a conscientious angler could do would be to harvest those fish, those yellow perch that they catch in the reservoir. We don't want them there. And we certainly don't encourage the expansion of that population. So harvesting those fish would be one thing that Idahoans could do to help out.
Brett says if you do catch a yellow perch, they don't taste too fishy and they make for good tacos. Staying out east, it's out with the old for the Idaho Falls Water Tower. City has been sharing the process of the structure coming down on social media. Started a week ago. Crews built the water tower 90 years ago, and it's held 500,000 gallons of water. City is upgrading with a new tower that will now hold double that, so I guess what, over 1 million? The water helps firefighters dealing with power outages, and it will hydrate a growing population. City plans to preserve some pieces of the original tower for historic purposes, and a lot of the material will be recycled. Idaho Falls has been celebrating the end of the water tower for the last year and a half. We'll be back.
Lots of cool pictures on Idaho Weather Watchers in the past 24 hours from that freezing fog around the Treasure Valley. Today was a little bit better. We had some light winds last night. That did lift some of that fog, so we saw a little bit more sunshine and even some blue skies this afternoon. But we can expect periodic fog and low clouds to continue to come and go through the weekend. In general, the weekend will follow the same sequence that we saw today, where we saw patchy, dense fog in the morning, which then lightened up a little bit by the afternoon. Here's a look at this big, broad ridge of high pressure that we've been looking at for the past week. It continues to hold in place over the west coast, keeping things very calm and stable in southwest Idaho and the northwest altogether. We still have this air stagnation advisory that has also been in place for at least a week. It continues to get pushed further out into the future, not expiring until Tuesday afternoon now. In fact, many parts of the northwest altogether have this same air stagnation advisory thanks to that ridge of high pressure. Right now, visibility is not too bad across the Treasure Valley. Ontario still being the most impacted. This is something we have seen over the past several days. They only have about a 2-mile view of visibility right now, but Magic Valley has good visibility 10 miles out, which is considered clear. Mountains, of course, clear as well, as they are above that inversion layer. The fog will potentially get worse tonight, but there is a possibility that it doesn't get too dense. Depends on how low our clouds decide to sit tonight, but we are expecting for the time being that the fog will get thick at least through the morning hours. So if you're up bright and early tomorrow, then you will see those impacts. But if we look to tomorrow afternoon, this is now Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Magic Valley looks clear again by this point, and the Treasure Valley looks really decent, especially in the upper Treasure Valley, such as Boise and Mountain Home. Lower Treasure Valley may still have some impacts at that time. And then looking to Sunday, similar setup again, patchy, dense fog in the morning, hopefully a little bit more clearing by the time we get to the afternoon. Tomorrow morning, our low temperatures will be below freezing for the Treasure and the Magic Valley, so that does make for the possibility of some freezing fog with rime ice like we've seen over the past few days. The water stays as water droplets within that fog until it crashes with a freezing surface, and then it kind of flash freezes in that time, making those white ice crystally looking roads that we have seen in the past day or so. Afternoon temperatures, though, should warm up to the low 40s in the Magic Valley, upper 30s, low 40s for the Treasure Valley, so a little bit warmer than normal potentially. Saturday and Sunday, the afternoons will probably be the time to get out and about with those better conditions. Hopefully the patchy fog does burn off some by the afternoons. Next week, we do look at that inversion holding on for a majority of the week. We'll continue to monitor how that fog plays out, so just keep checking back with us. Okay, it is just before 5:30. Let's check in on some traffic. We have some cameras we're looking at here. It is surprisingly quiet near the Flying Y right now. Westbound, people probably got an early start home on their commutes, but heading into Nampa and Caldwell, the traffic does build back up a little bit. We have a traffic flow graphic to look at now. You can see just a pocket of some traffic westbound from the Flying Y, and then in between Meridian and Nampa. But overall, not too bad across the Treasure Valley for right now.
All right, let's get to the comment. Tron 7000 here for a look. I've got power. Hey, Susan in Meridian writes, if you don't want to send your kids to public schools, that's your choice, but it should be your responsibility to pay for it. It's just wrong to take money away from public schools to fund your school choice. Susan with a perspective on the Parental School Choice Tax Credit, which we think a little more than 3,000 people applied for during the first day. Certainly still controversial, but in the law effectively now. Okay, Ron in Boise wrote, we never had kids, but we have to pay school bonds and levies. We would like to have $10K because we didn't put a burden on any school district. How about that? Certainly a perspective I've heard more than once. Ron, Chris in Mountain Home says, I was working for the state during Y2K and everyone thought all computers were going to crash. However, everything turned out fine. That is good news. The tech people were sitting there at midnight watching the fireworks go off in downtown Boise, being like, boy, I hope we're still online here in about 10 seconds. And what is Joe doing? Wearing a tie on the 208. I wore a tie accidentally on the 208 yesterday. You guys have great eyes. No tie today, and not on Monday probably. We'll see. I don't know. See you then.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app.